Damn, I don't. No, he shot. Bro,
Wait, do he really got defense wounds?
Well, I think he went through his hand, and there was burn marks on his face too.
Oh wow!
I think, bro. I think we know, bro. I'm keeping it being like for the consensus. I think we know he shot him. It's just we think he can beat the case because they didn't find the gun. You know what I mean? They didn't find the gun, so like on some Boosie shit, like Gucci Mane shit. Or
I ain't gonna lie,
like,
Boom. You ain't had to say it. You ain't had to say it,
bro. Like we gonna have to say it, bro. We know he shot him, bro, but we don't want like for the law. Like we believe, like you ain't find a gun, bro. You can't charge that nigga, even though we know he did it. You know what I mean? We know OJ did it, but the glove didn't fit.
Yo, Boom, I appreciate you for that.
Hey, somebody gotta say it, bro. Somebody gotta say this shit, bro. These are the mind of everybody in the chat, bro.
Come on, like he made a song about it, y'all. What are we talking about?
He made a song about it
before it happened. What are we talking about?
Nah, that wasn't about that.
That's some conspiracy shit though. Like, come on now.
No, he made that song before. Unless he was planning the murder in that song.
You just said that. So how am I crazy for thinking he planned it in the song?
Not because that song was like
2-3 years old.
Yeah, it was over a year. Nah. Like if the nigga was planning for 3 years, if it was planning for 3 years, at least have a nigga not named Fredo Bang come pick you up in the middle of the murder. You know what I mean?
That's so crazy. I think he could plan for 3 years, bro. He seemed like the type of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Bro,
yo, the biggest problem in his case is niggas' cell phones. Like,
he should have just turned that bitch off, bro.
The facts, you know, rappers have problems with cell phones.
Hell yeah.
I don't know, bro. Maybe it was a drive-by, bro. Like maybe somebody actually did, just like, you know what I mean?
I think it was the police, Boom. I think the police set a nigga up.
Man, you gotta stop trolling, bro.
I think Melly did it. I think Melvin innocent though.
No, Melvin is the killer. You ain't listen. Melvin is the demon. Melly is the cool guy.
No, I
think Melvin's trying to frame Melvin.
Yo, to answer that question, I don't think we actually. Maybe I didn't stream that day or whatever. We didn't play the medical examiner. So the medical examiner is going to tell you exactly how they died, and they actually use like a little. So this is a medical examiner here. I'm gonna mute her for like a couple of minutes that y'all could hear. So she's gonna show you exactly. And by the way, it's so interesting. I think y'all heard it too. The reason why they know that the shots that came from outside the car were post-mortem. When you die, you know, because your heart doesn't pump blood, it's like your body composition is very different when you receive a wound after you've died rather than before you were died. You get what I mean? Remember, your heart's not pumping blood. There's a lot of things that's just not happening anymore. But when you hear the medical examiner, which I think this is one of the star witnesses, like she's going to describe how quickly and just how ruthlessly, you know, Melly allegedly, you know, disposed of these guys, you know, no pun intended. It's kind of shocking. Hold on, let me play it.
The individual alive when it was inflicted?
Yes.
How can you tell that?
From the hemorrhage.
Is there any sort of other things that would help and assist you in demonstrating the difference between hemorrhage and not?
Well, if we look at the other injuries.
Okay. So let's move on then to gunshot wound C.
So this is gunshot wound C, which was on the back of the right shoulder. Okay, the abrasion collar around that wound is not hemorrhagic. What that tells me is that there is no circulation to that part of the body when that gunshot wound is inflicted. If you think about, you know, an abrasion is a blunt force injury, okay, from an object. It's a friction injury. If you think about riding your bike as a child, falling off your bike, skidding your knee, right? That will quickly turn red and bleed because you've taken off that top layer of skin. Same scenario here, except I don't have any circulating, I don't have a heartbeat, I don't have any blood circulating to this part of the body, therefore that abrasion stays yellowy white.
So Dr. McDougall, can you give any opinion as to how long time frame elapsed between gunshot wound A to E in the head and gunshot wound C?
I cannot.
Why not?
Oh, because I don't know how long it would have taken him to pass away.
Is there any medical studies that can be recreated in?
We can't do that.
You said he is deceased at that point.
Correct.
Can you give the ladies and gentlemen of the jury an example of what you would see if they were inflicted within seconds of each other?
Well, I can tell you of the hundreds of gunshot wound cases, not even, I just had a stab wound case, but in the hundreds of cases that I've done, the thousands of cases that I've done, there are only 3 where I can tell you the order in which the shots occurred, because some were before the person passed away and some were after. You know, I've had hundreds of gunshot wound cases where they're shot 15, 20, 25 times, and every single gunshot has hemorrhage. So, are they within seconds? No. But I can't tell you, is it, 5 minutes? Is it 30 minutes? There's no way for me to tell you what the time frame between gunshot wound A to E is from when B and C were inflicted.
What type of mask she got on?
Moving on to D. What about this particular mark tells you that this is an exit wound?
So D is an exit wound. It's lacerated, okay, because you have a blunt force object, the projectile, traveling at a very high, traveling at a rate of speed and with enough energy to perforate the skin, and it causes a laceration.
And so this is photo number 16 for the record. Can you explain?
By the way, they're showing pictures of the autopsy on screen. I think for sensitivity purposes, they don't include it in the stream, which I think that's a great move. That's necessary in the legal process, but for people watching, no. So what she's looking at over here, I think, are pictures of the autopsy, which is, the person unclothed where they could point out bullet marks and shit.
And I'm going to go forward on to photo number 17 so you can explain what a laceration is and what it looks like.
Yeah, so this skin is lacerated. There's no abrasion margin around it, and it's consistent with an exit wound.
And in terms of where on the body is D located?
So it's right almost underneath the armpit.
And
on the left-hand side of the back.
Going back to picture 16, which direction is the body facing when this photo is taken?
Face down.
Okay. Going on to photograph number 20 for the record. What are we looking at here?
So this is the left lung. There's a trajectory rod through it showing the pathway of the projectile. What is interesting in this photograph is that there's absolutely no hemorrhage around any of those wounds. Okay, your lungs are very vascular, right? Because your lungs are responsible for taking the oxygen out of the air you breathe and pushing it into your blood, right? In the really small sacs in your lung. So an injury to your lung is going to bleed a lot, okay, if your heart is beating. Okay, there's no hemorrhage in the upper or the lower lobe of the left lung.
And so when you say hemorrhage, what would it look like on the photo? What would you be looking for?
So there would be, blood would leak out into the area around that lung, and it would not look pink with black staining. It would look red because it's full of blood.
And so Dr. McDougall, if you could remind the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what entrance and exit wound does this correspond with?
So this is entrance wound B. That goes to exit wound D.
Moving on to what has been admitted as photograph number 18. Can you describe for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what we're looking at here?
I can. So this is the exit wound E. That went with entrance wound A, the back of the neck. comes out the right side of the temporal scalp. This is with the scalp reflected forward. So we do an incision across the head behind the ears. We reflect the scalp forward and back. And what this is showing you is this is hemorrhage. Okay, this is blood. This is bleeding. There is a heartbeat.
And so with regards to now E, at this point, the scalp is back on this photo, which we've already talked about here. Can you explain why this is a laceration?
So we shave it to show, because it's consistent with a laceration. There's no abraded margin. It's consistent with an exit wound.
In terms of what has been previously admitted as State 74, is this the projectile fragments, a photo of them that have been introduced into evidence?
That's correct.
Why do you recover these?
Because, we usually recover projectiles and fragments so that, turn them over so that crime scene can do whatever gun testing they want to do with the projectiles. These pieces are probably too small, but it's still evidence. So we collect all the evidence outside of and on the body to give to law enforcement in case they need it.
Was there any evidence of medical intervention for Mr. Williams?
No.
And what would that mean?
So sometimes people are transported to the hospital. They still have a heartbeat. And so the trauma team or the emergency room doctors are going to want to do whatever they can do to save that person's life. So sometimes with gunshot wounds, especially, you can have, they can put chest tubes in, they can do a thoracotomy, which is where they open up the side of your, they open up your rib cage to try to get your heart beating again. There's lots of things that they will do to try to save somebody's life.
Were there any, and you said there was none of those in this case?
There were none.
In terms of the rest of the internal examination, were there any other findings that led to the death of Mr. Williams other than the gunshot wounds you have talked about?
No.
The ADE?
There are none.
Do you collect samples for the purpose of processing for toxicology?
We do.
And do you do that testing?
We have a toxicology lab. I don't do it personally. We have a toxicologist that does it.
And did you do that for Mr. Williams?
We did.
And in terms of the results of that toxicology, what showed up?
So he has marijuana, THC, and marijuana metabolite.
And can you give any sort of time frame on the ingestion of those
I cannot.
substances?
All right. She obviously does a longer testimony here, but I don't know if you guys remember when the prosecutor was talking about the gunshot wound, especially to the guy, well, actually to both of them, there was something they kept referring to as stifling. And if you put stifling and gunshot wound together, you'll get a definition of it, which is, it says the powder tattooing or powder stifling is the live tissue reaction caused by the impact of partially burnt or unburned powder particles on the skin, causing hemorrhage. It often looks like soot and is caused when the gunshot is either in contact with near bullet wound. Yeah. The guy who was to the right of Melly was awake. The guy who was in the front, he never woke up. So, I think these are the things that's gonna kind of weigh in a jury's mind. If you could shoot a nigga while he's sleeping, you a demon. You get what I mean? Let me try to get back on today's part of the case. Yo, this YSL trial still going. Niggas don't even look at this shit no more. Can we find a Young Thug in trial today? Is this Thug back here? No, it's not.
Those items we talked only about possession.
Oh, Thug right here. Damn, this nigga. No wonder this nigga hate Gunna. This nigga is in court every day. Gunna's fucking a new bad bitch with a BBL every day, bro. I know he hate Gunna. This is today in court for why the niggas have just stopped covering the YSL shit. Like, it's just Okay. We missed an important part in court that happened just now. So this is today. So there was a push for a mistrial again. And the reason why that happened is because some text messages that the prosecutor put up that were claiming to be Melly, right, showed Melly disrespecting his own mom. And they feel like people who have mothers who are in the jury pool, if they're looking at a guy already accused of killing his friends, if they're now seeing that he also disrespects his mom, and if they're mothers, they might take it a little bit more personal. Maybe they vote against him. All right. Let me...
That courtroom, she...
Make this a very...
Let me see if I could...
as why the...
In the YNW Melly double murder trial...